Level 1. The last morning, you were still whole. You wake up before the sun. The air in Athens smells like olives and stone dust and something else. Something you don't have a name for yet. You are 28 years old. You are sharp. You are hungry. You are his student, his favorite student, though he would never say that out loud. He never played favorites with words, only with time. And he gave you so much of his time. You pull on your robe and walk the familiar path through the agora, past the merchants setting up their stalls, past the old men already arguing about nothing, past the temple steps where pigeons congregate like tiny philosophers. You are walking to him. You are always walking to him. That is simply what your mornings are. You find him already there, sitting on a low stone wall near the fountain, barefoot, as always, talking to a young potter about the nature of beauty. The potter looks confused. Socrates looks delighted. You sit nearby and say nothing, because you have learned this is how you learn best, not by speaking, by listening. He glances at you once, just once, and in that glance there is something that feels like pride, or maybe that's just what you needed to see. You will spend the rest of your life wondering, level 2, the charges. The word spreads through the city like smoke. Socrates has been charged. You hear it first from a merchant, then from a senator's slave, then from three people at once in the marketplace. Each version slightly different, but the core identical: impiety, corrupting the youth. You stand very still when you hear it. The crowd moves around you like water around a stone. You think, this is a mistake. You think, they will see reason. You think, he will speak and they will understand, because that is what he does. He speaks and people understand, or they get angry. Those are usually the only two options. You find him that evening. He is not afraid. This is the part that unravels you. He is sitting with his wife, Xanthippe, and his children, eating bread, laughing about something, laughing. You want to shake him. You want to say, do you understand what they are planning? But you don't. Because the truth is, he understands better than any of you. He has always understood better than any of you. That's precisely the problem. Level 3, the trial that was never really a trial. 501 jurors. You sit in the crowd. Your heart is beating so loud you are certain the man beside you can hear it. Socrates stands in the center, and he does something that makes your stomach drop. He refuses to beg. Every accused man in Athens begs. They bring their weeping children, their elderly mothers. They prostrate themselves. They perform helplessness. Socrates does none of this. He says, if I have done what they say I have done, I am guilty. If I have not, then no punishment is just. He says, I would rather die than stop doing what I believe is right. The jury shifts. You can feel it. He is not playing their game, and they hate him for it. 280 vote guilty, 220 say innocent. Then comes the sentencing. He could propose exile. He could propose a fine. He proposes a pension paid by the city for services rendered to Athens. You close your eyes. You already know what comes next. 360 vote for death. You sit in the crowd, and for the first time in your life, you do not understand. Philosophy has failed. Reason has failed. He failed to save himself on purpose, and you cannot decide if that is the most courageous thing you have ever witnessed or the most devastating. Level 4, 30 days of waiting. They do not kill him immediately. A sacred ship has left for Delos. Tradition dictates no execution while it is at sea. So he waits in prison. And you visit. Every day you visit. His friends are there. Crito, Sebes, Simmias. You all sit in a circle like the old days, except the old days had sunlight. These conversations happen in shadow, and the subject is always the same. Death. What is it? Is the soul immortal? Is there something after? He speaks of it without trembling. He says, death is either a dreamless sleep or a journey. Either way, he is not afraid. You want to believe him. You desperately want to be as calm as he is. But you are 28 years old, and the man who taught you everything is choosing not to escape. Crito arranges it. The guards are bribed. The plan is solid. Socrates refuses. He says, if I run, I am saying the law means nothing. He says, the law that raised me, educated me, gave me Athens, I cannot spit on it now simply because it has turned against me. You sit with that, you sit with that, and somewhere inside you, a new question forms, one that will consume the next 40 years of your life. Is justice possible in a city run by men? Level 5. The last conversation. The ship returns. You know what that means. Tomorrow, you go to the prison the night before. He is sitting cross-legged, his white hair catching the torchlight. He looks like what he always was, a man thinking. You sit beside him. For a long time, neither of you speaks. Then he says your name, not in a teaching way, in the way a father says a name, quietly, completely. He says, you carry questions in your eyes even when your mouth is closed. You say, I have too many questions and not enough time. He says, good. That means you have been paying attention. He talks about virtue, about the soul, about how the body is a kind of cage and death a kind of opening. You listen the way you always listen, like a man drinking from the only well for miles. At some point, the other disciples begin to weep. He scolds them gently. He says, is this how philosophers go, weeping like children? He says, I thought we had agreed that death is nothing to fear, but then he looks at you again, and this time he says nothing, and somehow that nothing contains everything. You leave before dawn. You cannot stay for what comes next. You know your limits. Even now, you know your limits. Level 6, the hemlock hour. You are not in the room, but you hear it from Phaedo, word for word. Almost. Socrates bathed, said goodbye to his wife and sons without ceremony, walked back to his friends, asked for the cup himself, didn't wait to be given it, asked for it, drank it, and then walked around the room until his legs grew heavy, lay down, let the cold climb from his feet upward, said his last words. And the last words were not about philosophy, not about virtue, not about the forms or the soul or the good. He said, Crito, I owe a rooster to Asclepius. Don't forget to pay the debt. That's it. A debt, a rooster, an ordinary obligation, as if even in dying he wanted to remind you. A good man honors his commitments, even the small ones, especially the small ones. You receive this information in a room alone, and you feel something break, not dramatically, not with noise, the way ice breaks under weight, silently, suddenly, completely. You sit on the floor, the great student of the greatest mind in Athens, sitting on the floor, crying like someone who has no philosophy at all, because grief doesn't care what you know. Grief arrives like weather, and you are soaked through. Level 7, the exile. You chose. You leave Athens. Not because you are forced to, because you cannot breathe there anymore. Every corner has a memory wearing his face. The agora, where he debated sophists until they stuttered. The gymnasium, where he chased ideas with young men who thought they were humoring an old fool. The fountaina, where he talked to a potter about beauty. You cannot be in this city and feel nothing, and you cannot afford to feel everything, so you leave. You go to Megara first, then south, then west. You travel for years, Egypt, Sicily, Italy. You study mathematics in Cyrene. You sit with Pythagorean mystics in Tarentum. You observe the court of a tyrant in Syracuse. The tyrant's name is Dionysius. He is powerful, petty, and bored. He is everything a ruler should not be. You see it clearly, the way power without wisdom devours itself, the way a throne without virtue is just a decorated trap. You think of Socrates, you think of the jury, 501 men who believed they were wise, and you write in your mind, slowly, painfully, the beginning of a question that will become a book. What would a truly just city look like? Who should lead it? What kind of soul does a ruler need? These are not abstract questions. These are wounds asking to become words. Level 8, the academy. You return to Athens. You are 37 years old. The city has moved on. Cities always move on, but you have not. You buy a piece of land outside the city walls, near a grove sacred to a hero named Academos, and there, in the shade of olive trees, you build something, not a temple, not a monument, a school. You call it the academy, and the idea behind it is almost embarrassingly simple. If Athens kills philosophers who question power, then you will create a space where questioning is the point, where the examined life is not dangerous, it is the curriculum. Students come from everywhere, young men with sharp eyes and sharper questions. You teach them mathematics because you believe the mind must be trained in precision before it can handle philosophy. You teach them dialectic, the art of thinking through conversation, the art he taught you. Sometimes, in the middle of a discussion, a student will say something he would have said, and you will stop mid sentence and look away for a moment, and no one asks why. They don't need to. They all know whose shadow falls across this place. They can feel it in the method, in the questions, in the way you never simply give answers. You make them find the answers, because that's what he did, because that's what he was, and this is how you keep him alive. Level 9, the Republic of the Mind. You write, for years you write, dialogues, conversations between characters, always with Socrates at the center. You give him his voice back, the voice Athens tried to silence. You put words in his mouth, some his, some yours, some somewhere in between. It stops being a historical record, it becomes something more. It becomes myth, and one day you write the thing that has been growing in you since the trial, since the hemlock, since the exile. You call it the Republic. You write about a city built not on tradition or military strength or commerce, but on justice. A city where those who rule are those who are least tempted by power, where philosophers, people who love wisdom more than wealth, hold the reins. You write about the cave, prisoners chained inside, watching shadows on a wall, believing the shadows are real. One prisoner escapes, climbs out into the sunlight, is blinded by what is true. And then, here is the part that matters. He goes back. He goes back into the cave to tell the others, and they don't believe him. And if they could, they would kill him. You write that line and your hand slows, because you have lived that story. You did not write the cave from imagination. You wrote it from memory. His name was Socrates. He climbed into the light. He came back, and they killed him. And now you are the one trying to describe sunlight to people who only know shadows. Philosophy is not a career. It is a kind of suffering you cannot stop inflicting on yourself. Because once you have seen the light, darkness is not peace. Darkness is unbearable. Level 10, what you leave behind. You are old now. Your hands are thicker than they used to be. Your walks are shorter. The students at the academy are younger every year. Or perhaps you are simply older every year. One of them, a boy from Stagira, impossibly brilliant, slightly arrogant, will eventually overturn half of what you believe. His name is Aristotle. He will argue that the forms do not exist in some separate eternal realm. That truth lives in the particular, in the stone, the tree, the specific man, not above them, in them. You disagree, deeply, but you let him stay, because that is what the academy is, a place where even your students can be wrong together, a place where thinking is not finished, only continued. On your last good evening, you sit under the olive trees. The sun is going down over Athens, the city that killed your teacher, the city you could not abandon. You think of him, you think of the cup he asked for himself, of the rooster he remembered to pay back, of the way he looked at you, just once, across a courtyard the morning before the charges came. And you understand something you have been circling for 50 years. He was not trying to save himself, he was trying to save the idea that a life must be examined, that comfort is not the point, that truth, even when it costs everything, is worth the cost. You did not run from Athens. You built something in Athens. You gave his voice back to the world, and the world, slowly, imperfectly, across centuries it cannot yet imagine. will listen. Not every truth is welcomed in its time, but every truth eventually finds its time. You close your eyes, the olive trees rustle, Athens breathes below you, and somewhere, in the space between what is remembered and what is eternal, a barefoot old man is still asking questions, still delighted, still alive, and you smile, because he always said death was nothing to fear, and for the first time, you almost believe him.